the Italian Football Podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the first episode of Questions from the Italian Football Podcast Patrons of 2025, where you, our patrons, decide what the show is about by simply sending in your questions via email, DM on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, but, as always, preferably via DM on Patreon. I'm joined, as always, by Carlo Garganese. So let's start with the very first question, which has been sent in from Graham Toddes. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your surname. He says, a question: what are your favorite guys' hobbies or passions outside of sports football? Keep up the great work in Forza Juve. I don't know. I mean, I love music and the arts and films and TV and culture essentially. I have lots of friends who work in arts and cultures, and I'm also very interested in it myself. So and it's outside of sports football. I'd say it's the law and literature and the arts essentially.
Yeah, for me, I'd say, well, the usual stuff, that most Italians like, food and culture,
Yeah, of course,
travel. But I love film, or more kind of like series now, because film is dead.
Mm.
No, they don't make any. Cinema's dead now.
They've killed it.
Been taken over by series now. So I do love that. I do love watching those. I love history. I love learning about history. I love, the bigger questions, where we come from,
philosophy, stuff like that.
And everything.
Same. Yeah, I mean, those, I mean, I don't look as, I mean, I know what you mean, but like, of course, I mean, food and stuff like that, but I feel like that stuff like that goes without saying, doesn't it? I mean, interest in food and stuff like that, but same. I also have a very, very big interest in wine and everything about it, from how you grow it to the different, the geology of the ground, blah, 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 the climate, how people make wine is something that I'm very passionate about as well. But yeah, the same as you, pretty much. Lots of stuff. But thanks for that, Graham. Next question. Alec Pearson says, who can play in any specific under-23 match? Juve Next Gen, Milan Futura, what are the rules? I assume Juve Next Gen cannot just play Vlahovic, Coop, Gonzalez and Yildiz for under-23 if Serie A is decided, and they want to avoid relegation from Serie C or for Next Gen. Well, I guess they can play Yildiz, but that would still completely mess up the balance of power in Serie C if suddenly Savona, Yildiz and Mbangula play every week. What about Conceição? He's 22. Thuram turned 23 this year, so he must also be eligible. New Year is usually the cutoff for ages in relation to squad registration, meaning your age at the start of the calendar year determines your youth eligibility, which is ridiculous when the league is on a July to June year. The reason for these questions about eligibility is from an idea about in order to help limit the amount of senior games in the schedule, then clubs with the under-23 team who play in Europe should not play Coppa Italia. Instead, their under-23 teams plays Coppa. If we use English terms, Coppa Italia is not an FA Cup, it's a League Cup in structure format. And I believe there are special rules for the League Cup in England so as to keep clubs away from playing full competitions, meaning they are obligated to use youth team players in some way. Similar could apply in Italy. As long as Milan and Juventus play in Europe, then I believe it should be their under-23 teams that play Coppa Italia, and the under-23 team should be less of an option and more of an expectation, so there will be more focus on talent creation in Italy. Maybe have 4 Serie Cs, where each has 5 Serie A team under-23 teams, or even better, 18 teams in Serie A and 6 in each of 3 times Serie C. And then Bs, under-23 playing D, also in a fixed slot if those clubs have under-23 teams, and then have a non-Serie A B under-23 team playing in an under-23 league structure. Under-23 cannot be promoted or relegated in the senior Serie C D structure. Their division is determined by senior squads. League. How would you approach the development towards under-23 teams? Keep it like it is, where clubs apply as Juventus and Milan did, or something else? Well, first of all, let's remember that there's no, like, all these so-called under-23 teams, like Next Gen, Milan Futura, etc., there's no, like, law. They've not, like, obligated to play players that are under-23. It's just they want to promote their younger teams by playing first-team football, albeit at a lower level. So there's no like, oh, you can't play he's too old, he's too young kind of thing. It doesn't work like that, because it's their choice. They have decided to call it Milan Futuro Next Gen, etc. I'm against under 23 leagues because it defeats the purpose. I want young players to play first team football. And if you just create a capped level where only players of a certain age can play, that defeats the entire purpose. I'm all in favor of what these clubs are doing in terms of creating a younger, like a cantera team, and playing younger players there. And, to get going like Milan did with, they brought in Samuel Elongo because they needed someone of experience to stabilize the ship and so on, just for a little while. It's I have no problem with that. I don't want under 23 teams. I think we already have Primavera. I think we already have all these other things. I want the under 23 to be the middle step between youth team football and senior team football, and therefore, I don't have
It doesn't work either. That's been proven conclusively in every league that's ever had, including in England, where they had they had this in England, and it didn't work at all. At all, it didn't develop players at all, and so it was a complete waste of time and money. So I think that best way to do it is to try and do it the way they do. But unfortunately, the Serie A's the level is so low that it's better than having an under 23 league, but it's still not of a high enough quality to develop and prepare these players for men's football. But it is still better than just going straight from youth football. What should be noted though, the only other thing to add to what you said, Nimmer, is that I think it's after about 50 games played. I can't remember the exact number, if it's 30 or 50. I can't remember. If you play 50 for the senior team, you can't then play for the
is that per season or 50 per total or
no
30?
Total. So
Okay.
like someone like Vlahovic couldn't play because he's
No,
already
of
played
course.
too many games.
Well, that makes sense. I think that's fine.
Yildiz is probably getting towards that number now as well. So yeah, that there's that. That is the one rule that they do have.
That's fair. I think that's fair. Whether it's 30 or 40 or 50, I mean, you can debate that, but I don't have a problem with that. I think that's a fair compromise. Next question. Milanismo says, hi, I'm relatively new to the pod. Could you guys talk about how you guys came together to put this pod together? How did you and Nima meet? And how long did it take to get that synergy going where you didn't have to bite each other's heads off and still be able to put together quality content? Love the pod. Thank you so much. Well, I remember the first time we actually met. That was at Old Trafford for the Football Blogging Awards, as it was called, wasn't it?
Yeah, Football Content Awards.
Yeah, but it changed their name. They were called the FBAs back then.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you were with Omar Momani, the cartoonist.
That's right, yeah.
He's brilliant. I love his work.
Yeah.
He's a good friend of ours. And yeah, no, I remember that. That was the first time we actually met. But before then, I think we had contact when I was at Di Marzio. And that was the first time we spoke, I think.
Yeah, you had an interview that you were setting up with, what's his name? The ex-Inter owner, the Indonesian owner.
Oh, Tahir, yeah.
Tahir, yeah, and you were trying to set up an interview for me.
Yeah.
They wanted an interview to kind of, go a little bit global, and you came to me, and then in the end, I think somebody else, one of my colleagues, did it instead. I remember that. Yeah. I remember thinking, like, how kind of you to think of me at the time. That's how we first met, and then we kind of got to know each other, kept contact, and then during COVID,
it was before, wasn't it? Wasn't it 4 years ago?
It was during COVID. Yeah, it was like the summer of 2000. You came to me and said, "Look, me and John Solano and another girl, you'd already kind of started your own little pod, and one of you guys was leaving, and who was it? Chloe, wasn't it? Chloe Beresford was leaving. You needed somebody else." And I remember,
we wanted to change the format of the pod either. We wanted to take the next step because
it used to be called, what did it used to be called?
The Serie A show.
Serie A show, yeah. So you came to me, and I was available and bored out of my head because of COVID and everything, and I just thought, why not? Let's just give it a go. And then it just we changed the name, we changed the format a little bit, and it just took off straight away, really. And
a first interview with Sven-Goran Eriksson, yeah.
That's right, yeah. The synergy was always pretty good. I think there was sometimes you just have a natural chemistry with somebody, and we did, because we both talk a lot and about football. So it was never there was never a situation where one of us couldn't find anything to talk about. There was it's the other way around. It was trying to
calm it down more,
trying to cut down the amount we talk rather than
reduce it.
yeah.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, it was always there. We always got along really easily from day one. Like, it just worked. And I remember I got you so drunk in Old Trafford.
Yeah.
I remember you wrote me like 3 days later and you still hadn't recovered. And I was like, what happened? And you said, you happened. I'll never forget that.
Yeah, I do remember that. That was a good night. Wasn't as good a night as the one in Chelsea, though. That was a better night when we got run over by Michael Essien.
Well, that was you and Naz, wasn't it?
Yeah. Literally Michael Essien's car ran over Naz. Nizar Kinsella, who's now at the BBC now. He's actually a great guy.
I remember. Yeah, he's lovely. Yeah, I remember that. Oh dear. Right, next question. Misa Kolikian says, is the theory true that a soul has to be sacrificed to release a soul from J Medical Azkaban? Nico Gonzalez got out when Cambiasso went in. Ruhi and Cambiasso will get out for Monza. Douglas Luiz and Vea are now re-injured. It's like there has to be someone always present, someone always occupying the bed in the infirmary to release someone else. You know what's funny? Now that Danilo is injured, Douglas Luiz is going to be back for the Fiorentina game. I'm telling you, this is Jay Azkaban. Also, I finally have given in to the fatwa of your friend Patrick Alkendrick and have accepted that Domenico Berardi would be an improvement to any team. And that's why I would be glad if he joins this Juve that lacks a person that can get the numbers. For a 2-3 year deal and a logical amount of like 10-15 million euros, do you think it would be smart to get at least one veteran in the forward line? The eldest one is Nico, and he's like 26. He's got another question as well. It says, is the Premier League players, are they good enough for the Serie A? I mean, look at this season's top performers. Cajuste was atrocious with Napoli. He's balling for Ipswich. Milenkovic and Huijsen, two error-prone defenders in the Serie A, team of the season talk in the Premier League, and vice versa with EPL players in the Serie A. Mo Salah never got 30 goals and assists by Christmas here. Douglas Luiz has been extremely poor with Juve, who was a top player at Aston Villa. Can we start branding players as Calcio proven instead of Premier League proven? Oh dear. Let me start with the Berardi thing. I think that ship has passed. Although I do agree that you need to have balance in a squad. You can't just have young players. You need to have someone who's experienced and can, lead by example. So I wouldn't be against that kind of a signing for Juve. I mean, if the oldest is 26, then maybe that's, you need someone to you need balance in a squad, right? You can't just have kids and you can't just have oldies. You need somewhere, you need in between. But I don't know if I think Berardi should leave. I mean, if he's stayed at Sassuolo for so long, he's helping them come up to the Serie A again after being relegated. I mean, it's a beautiful story. I hope he stays at Sassuolo. I really do. I think he's, let him be their Di Natale, if that makes sense. What do you think?
Yeah, well, he's 30. He's going to be 31 in the summer. So yeah, the sale has definitely passed. With the ship has definitely sailed with Berardi, for sure, in terms of a big club. But he's useful in the sense that he guarantees numbers.
Yeah,
I guess, and that's something that Juventus definitely are not getting from their attackers. And you've got somebody that guarantees numbers, so. Yeah, but from a financial point of view, there's no point signing him at all because
I'm thinking more of I think he would do a job for Juve in the sense that I think he would lead and help. Like you said, the numbers, he's experienced, but I'm looking at more from a romantic point of view, and I love these provincial bandiere. I just wish he'd stay. I hope he stays there forever. And becomes he already is a legend, but I hope that he stays there forever.
As well now, so yeah, no point leaving now.
No, exactly. As for the Premier League, I love that thing, Calcio proven instead of Premier League proven. I mean, it's such a stupid discussion. So that I'm a firm believer that sometimes with dumb people, which these Prem faces are, you have to give them a dose of their own medicine. You know what I mean? If a dog misbehaves and defecates indoors, you shove his face in it and he doesn't do it again, kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? Like that kind of a...
You can always find examples both ways if you want to go look for them, and you pointed out some examples there. I don't know how good Cajuste's been, to be honest. Ipswich have been pretty crap for most of the season, although they beat Chelsea the other day. Yeah, you can find examples either way. I mean, Xerxes, for example, was one of the best players in the Serie A, and he's been a disaster in the Premier League. So yeah, you can get examples both sides for sure.
I have to say that broke my heart. Like this is so horrible. Like the booing, and he looked completely devastated. Like
It wasn't even booing. That's the worst thing. It was celebrating him coming off.
Yeah, which is, I mean,
They were
it was
cheering him. It was like mocking.
Yeah, that was so mean. Like that was not. It gave me a lump in my stomach watching that. Don't like shit like that. It felt like bullying, like being bullied by 80,000 people. It just didn't sit right with me at all. That. Anyway, next question. Matt Ionta says, just to alert you that the Napoli social media is at it again with this bizarre and misguided bullshit. And he sent me, I don't know what this is. I don't understand the point of it. It's an Instagram link. It's just photos of Napoli players on a bus. And it says by order of Peaky Blinders. I don't understand this at all. It's just Napoli players standing on a bus and a plane. Like,
yeah,
I don't get
understand the Italian obsession, but they just think that they can say a phrase and it
magically becomes true,
and everything makes sense around it. Just by saying by order of the Peaky Blinders, suddenly it makes sense of whatever goes with it. In this case, a picture of people on a bus.
It's just they're just standing on a bus, like nothing more. Mental.
Italians,
anyway, it's a good Serie A candidate, but there's quite a lot of them going around. Next question. Jack Hacken says, hi, Neiman Carlo. I don't have so much a question for the pod, but it's a scouting report. These are largely my own observations, and I've omitted most forms of game data since I personally can't incorporate it into the report without investing more time than I have. The report is intended to be a concise presentation of knowledge inspired by the epilogue of The Prince by Machiavelli, dedicated to Lorenzo de' Medici. It's a magnificent source of inspiration if you aspire to write something with the goal of transferring and gifting your insights to others. The subject is Santiago Gimenez of Feyenoord, who's been recently linked to Milan. Leaving the validity of the rumor aside, I'll explain why I think he would be suited to Serie A clubs like Milan, Juve, Napoli, where he fits into the Limone ball. I can't say I defer to Nemo on that point if he doesn't mind. Positional profile. Santi's a striker, primarily operating as the farthest man at field in most situations and central to the attack. Occasionally, he makes temporary positional switches with the left-sided or right-sided wingers after receiving a quickly recovered ball. He excels in positional awareness, reading the game intently and adjusting himself to the flow of play. On occasion, he moves out to the left or right flank, drawing defenders away and switching positions with a winger to create exploitable spaces in the center of the field. As a central striker, his off-the-ball movements are highly intelligent. He knows exactly how to position himself, whether behind or in front of the ball, and when to time his runs to pierce the opposition defense. In the box, particularly during set pieces or while anticipating crosses, he's extremely dangerous. His ability to produce stunning headers is underrated and adds significantly to his goal tally. One particularly noteworthy aspect of his game is his knack for the positioning himself perfectly to score on deflected or rebounded balls, a skill that can make all the difference. On the ball, Santi combines great pace with excellent ball control, allowing him to carry the ball forward with his both skill and confidence. His fast movements and smart positioning are complemented by his technical skills, enabling him to beat defenders using a mix of pace and technique. Another standout aspect of his game is his strong passing range and ability to execute drill patterns of play. This facilitates effective combinations with other attacking players, creating opportunities to unlock defenses and set up goal-scoring chances. In front of goal, he's a clinical finisher. He has the stopping power, range, and composure to pick the perfect spot to score. This makes him a cold-blooded and merciless striker, a true finisher. His composure also translates to penalty situation, where he has an impressive record, scoring 14 out of 17 attempts. In terms of European football, Santi has accumulated 1,064 minutes in the UEFA Champions League and Europa League, scoring 10 goals in 18 matches. He's also accustomed to the demands of a packed schedule, having played 41 matches for Feyenoord and 15 for Mexico last season. However, this workload can take a toll. When fatigued, his form dips and elements of his game suffer as a result. For instance, he endured two five-match scoring droughts last season, during which his overall performance declined noticeably. It's been a pleasure to put these observations to paper as a creative outlet. I hope this little piece gives Calcio fans a clear picture of Santi Gimenez should he move to Serie A or face Italian teams. Take care, Niman Carlo, and remember, salvation comes from within. Even Dumfries and Arnautovic knows it. Yours truly, Jack. That was really interesting. I liked it. I love when people send in these, not just Jack, but when everyone sends in their observations and reports. It's really interesting to read, I think. What'd you make of Santiago Gimenez?
I mean, I don't watch him week in, week out. I've seen him a bit in Europe. He hasn't to be honest with you, he hasn't stood out as somebody that I think will be a big star for in a bigger league. So I'm not sure, but it's always difficult to judge when they're playing in the Eredivisie. The Eredivisie is a really poor quality league, and that's been shown also by a lot of the players that have, especially like Eric Ten Hag sightings from the Eredivisie, who have generally failed in the last years. That I don't particularly trust signing players from the Eredivisie. To be honest with you, certainly not forwards. So I don't know. I'm holding fire on Santi Gimenez, to be honest. From what I've seen of him, he's never really suggested to me he's a big star. And also his record for Mexico is downright abysmal for the Mexico national team. Scored a lot of goals for Feyenoord, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's unfair. Maybe that's just judging him based on the fact that it's the Eredivisie. But yeah, from when I have seen him, he hasn't stood out for me personally.
The same. I mean, I know he's been linked with Milan for quite some time, but I don't know. I don't know. I'm also very much on the fence, and I know he's been, he's one of these players that they talk about quite a bit, and that they're kind of waiting to, he's only 23, so there is time. He's not past it by any stretch of the imagination. But I do think that it's probably, it's time for him to take that next step. And question is he ready for the top of the Serie A immediately for exactly the reasons you said? So yeah, it's a difficult one. But I do think that when I've seen him for Feyenoord, I do think that he's worked really well there. But like you said, it's difficult because the Dutch league is not what it used to be, unfortunately. It used to be a very, very high quality league. Let's remember Romario, the real Brazilian Ronaldo. These are the level of players that used to play in the Dutch league, right? That's no longer true.
Yeah,
It
we're
hasn't been
talking
for a
about
long
a league
time.
that's probably about the 15th best in Europe now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's just, yeah, it's
It's been
difficult to
decimated.
take anything serious from what you see in the Eredivisie,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
It's a little bit like Swedish league as well. I mean, all these minor leagues have been completely destroyed by Bosman. I mean, in 1994, when Sweden finished third, IFK Gothenburg had 12 players in the national team. That would never be that's impossible. That could never happen now. There's always there's a food chain that devours these players, and that's why these clubs can't succeed. The IFK Gothenburgs, the Malmö FFs, they can't do what they used to do before because they have to sell their players, and the players want to move to make more money and go to bigger leagues, And now it's already gone so low down the ages that we're talking about 15, 16-year-olds playing for Premier League youth teams or Italian youth. Do you know what I mean? Like these big clubs, they hoover up the talent at such a young age that it's completely, from every angle, it's destroyed the quality. Right. Next question comes from Magnus Kaufman. He says, "Hi guys, short question with a long answer. Sorry for this, Carlo. I know you don't like to talk about the stadium situation in Italy. Nima, can you explain the stadium situation in Milan for Inter? Stadium situation in Milano for Inter and Milan. What is the latest news, and are there some dates for 2025? Also, it cannot be said enough how much this pod means to me. I love Calcio, and listening to your content every week is really, really important to me. Take pride in your product. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, guys. Now I'll listen to the mid-season review. All the best, Magnus from Oslo." Well, thank you very much, Magnus, for all your kind words always and your support. The situation is very is very clear in that it's not clear. Milan have pissed off the mayor of San Donato when Scaroni came out and said that now it's Plan B. That thing that they were saying was Plan A is now Plan B, because they're trying to work out a deal now where Inter and Milan buy the San Siro at a reduced price from the municipality, and they refurbish it and rebuild it from, because they can't tear it down, but they have to refurbish it as best they can and make it into as modern as possible, with surrounding areas, a museum and stuff, and commercial areas and stuff like that. That seems to be what is being favored, and it's also garnered political support from the Italian government. The sports minister, for example, has supported this, which makes, of course, the work much more easier, because the San Siro will remain, it'll be rebuilt, it'll stay in the city, so it's kind of a compromise that keeps everyone happy. However, this is Italy. The red tape is big. There's a lot of financial decision. It's everyone agrees until it's time to pay for it. Who's going to pay for it, and so on and so forth. So we'll see what happens. But I do think that we've kind of reached a point now where if this falls flat on its face, then there is no choice anymore. No one, no, not Milan nor Inter can hide. They have to move away, and the city will be left if they can afford to. I don't think they can in this climate to take on a financial undertaking that big. I think Milan are in a better position financially to do that than Inter and Oaktree are. Or Oaktree's finances are great, but Inter are still in quite a bit of debt. So it's, this is where we are. I'm sorry, but yeah.
Yeah, nothing to add.
Next question. Joseph Mihalic says, Ciao, fellas. I've got some questions about the recent interview with Jerry Cardinale and Milan management with the Harvard Business Review. I'm a very recent sports business graduate, so interviews with those at the top of Calcio are very intriguing to me, mainly for all the wrong reasons. Cardinale and the management come off not just out of touch about the club he controls, but also completely backwards in their strategy. For example, Cardinale speaks of a need to recruit and invest intelligently as a key to building Milan into a sustainable operation. He speaks very highly of Furlani's background as an investor and being educated in the US way of doing business. However, it kept occurring to me that he puts Furlani as the CEO of a football club and also as someone with great influence in determining the sporting direction of a club, but who has zero background in making decisions about football. Yes, Moncada may effectively be his super scout, but Furlani is still helping to set the overall direction of the sporting project with zero experience. I don't think anyone has a problem with Cardinale wanting to run a profitable club. Atalanta, Napoli, and even Inter will have business models that keep the club profitable. Will have to have. The difference is they have people with experience who are good at their jobs running the sporting side of their clubs and not some hedge fund guy. Why doesn't Jerry just put someone with experience and a proven track record of doing this in charge? I'm an Interista, but Jerry's stupidity even triggers me enough to write a question into the pod about it. Thanks, guys, and keep up the great work. I really don't have anything else to add to that. I think everything he said there is pretty much my opinion. I think from a business side of things, in terms of vision and creativity and growing profitability and new revenue streams, I agree 100% with Jerry Cardinale. But like we said on Monday, and thank you to everyone who, I got to say, the response to that pod has been huge. It was actually one of our most downloaded and listened to pods of 2024. And Milan fans especially, thank you for the kind words and that you liked what we said and you enjoyed what we said. I have to say, the man is clueless when it comes to running the football side of football clubs. The business side, I think he's excellent, but the other, he doesn't know what he's doing, and it's clear that he doesn't know what he's doing, and he is appointing the wrong people. I mean, this notion that everyone goes on about Zlatan, I'm starting to think that Zlatan was brought on to be a patsy. Like, he's brought Zlatan on there to hide behind him, and then Furlani and Moncada get away with murder, and everyone just talks about Zlatan Ibrahimovic because he's the most famous person out of the lot of them. And it's so weird. The way that they run the sporting side is just, it's not working. And it feels dysfunctional, whilst the business side of everything seems actually to flow pretty okay. So, maybe this kind of Inter model where you have a CEO for business and a CEO for sports, something like that, and then you separate the two, is the way forward, because it's just not working.
Yeah, no, I think you've summed it up pretty well. But at the same time, it's only a matter of time before, if Milan don't get into the Champions League,
Yeah,
then that is the business side of things, the financial side of things is going to be affected massively, because Serie A clubs can't 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 survive. Not the big ones anyway. Big teams with big budgets. With big expectations, like Milan, like Juventus, they can't survive without qualifying for the Champions League. It's not like the Premier League. Like in the Premier League, if you don't qualify for the Champions League, it doesn't really, it barely makes any impact at all, because all the money is coming from the Premier League, from the TV money. If you lose 100 million a season through not being in the Champions League, it's a drop in the ocean. in Serie A, it's everything, and you can't survive. Look what happened with Juventus. One season not being in the Champions League, and it absolutely
decimated them.
It destroyed the club, and they had to have another massive bailout, which only really, only helped a little bit. And so, if that happens to Milan, regardless of the good work they're doing off the field, it's going to have a massive impact. So there's only so long that you can get away with failing in the sporting running of the club. As soon as you don't qualify, then that's it. So it's not good.
No,
Not good.
it really isn't. Next question. Akbar Palavan says, 3 questions for the pod. Your live reaction to Ivan Juric to Southampton, please. Can he finally be the one that breaks Derby's point tally of 11 and makes them the worst team in Premier League history? 2, everyone has asked you about your favourite films, music, video games. What about your favourite books? A book, full stop, not a football book. Many of them are crap and not properly written. A novel, history book, or a book about EU law. Anything but a football book. One more thing, can you recommend some fan-made songs like Quagliarella Boom Boom? I know we can just open Marco Violi's catalogue, but do you have anything else you can recommend? Thanks. Juric to Southampton. I'm happy he went there because I just, what happened at Roma was such a horrible thing, and I hope that he can, I mean, I still rate Juric. I know many don't, but I think he's a good coach. I think he's solid. And I hope that he can do something at Southampton, even though, again, his career choices are very much questionable after he left Torino. Like, going to Roma was career suicide, and now he's taken over another almost impossible job. But I do rate him, and I hope that he can somehow magically pull a rabbit out of a hat here. What do you think?
Who?
Juric.
Zero chance. No, they might as well. They're down already. They're miles behind everyone, and it is a bizarre appointment. They've gone from a manager who plays, passing out of the back football, to the complete opposite of the scale, in terms of how they play, and they're miles behind as well. So, yeah, that's a really bizarre appointment, Zurich, from a philosophical point of view, and they're too far behind now anyway. So, yeah, Zurich is, it's been a bit of a bad season for him.
His career choices are weird. I don't understand who's advising him.
I don't know why he accepted that job. No, unless he's been told, you know what, the rest of this season's a write-off. Next season, Championship.
Yeah, we'll build with you from the Championship. Yeah. And then I think it's a smart decision. But other than that, I don't get it. Favorite books? That's not a football book. I love Aldous Huxley's Brave New World. I think it's one of the greatest books ever written. That's one. What about you?
Ooh,
what favorite books?
Quite a few. I mean, you've mentioned one of them, George Orwell's 1984. I mean, it's a bit of an obvious one, but you can't go wrong with that if you want to see how far ahead of the rest of the world George Orwell was. Just read his book that he wrote, 1984, that he wrote in 1948. Everything that he's written in that has basically come to pass in terms of, living in a world that's Big Brother and totalitarian. And
well, he should know, working for British intelligence and spying on people.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Which he did.
Well, yeah. So did Aldous Huxley.
It's more of a confession than a dystopian novel, really.
Well, no, that's it. It's true. No, you're right. Well, so did Aldous Huxley. Huxley was his teacher.
Yeah, I know. I know.
so yeah. I mean, so there's those. I mean, I'm very much into totalitarian stuff, and if anybody reads David Icke, The Biggest Secret, which was written in the 90s, everything that's pretty much in there is pretty much what's come to pass. If you go further back, I love obviously Niccolo Machiavelli. The Prince is fantastic. The Art of War by Sun Tzu. I don't know if you ever read that. That's fantastic.
I've read excerpts from it. I mean, I love. For me, I've got a very broad taste in literature, just like in music. I mean, I think Charles Dickens is probably unfortunately, he's probably the most relevant writer right now. If you read his books, everything from Little Dorrit to Great Expectations to
Oliver is
Nicholas
my
Nickleby,
favourite.
Oliver Twist. I mean, he is unfortunately more relevant today than ever before, which is bloody sad. But he's also a brilliant novelist. I mean, it's just the books are unbelievable. I do love Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse, the Swiss painter or Swiss artist. He was unbelievable. There's so much, poet. He was a poet, novelist, German Swiss novelist. I love Shakespeare. I love Oscar Wilde. I've read everything he's ever written. Mark Twain, Tennessee
I only
Williams.
like Shakespeare when it's been modernised, and I know that's going to be blasphemy probably to
No,
you.
it's not. It's
It's
really not.
I'll be honest with you, I can't stomach the language. I can't. I just
It's
cannot.
600. It's like 500 years
I
old.
know, but but a lot of it is still done in its original
Yeah.
language. Like you see films and you see, obviously, depending if you read the originals in their original language, I
They
find
are
it
beautiful.
impossible. But I know there's a lot of people that love that.
I
I
do.
can't stomach it personally. Like I can't watch a Shakespeare film that's done in its original language. I can't watch it, and I know that will be blasphemy for a lot of
Mhm.
like purists. But for me,
No, look, there
I
is a
can't. But if you
beauty.
ask me about the stories themselves when
Mhm.
they are modernized, they're absolutely amazing, and I love all of them. I just don't like them in their original language.
No, it's because I mean I understand that the language feels unnatural and foreign to you because it's 500 years old, 400 years old. But there is an unbelievable beauty to his language and poetry,
Mm,
whether it's a tragedy or a comedy or whatever it is. He has his the way he plays with words is unique.
mm.
The way that the structure, the flow, and the way of he making a point without it's just
And he's given us the greatest insult ever by Napoli fans towards Verona as well. If it
yeah,
wasn't for Shakespeare, we wouldn't have that.
yeah. Roma, cuckold, and Juliet and harlot. It's so good. No, so there's lots of that. I mean, it's if we're talking, I read a lot of. I mean, my favorite Swedish author, Göran Tunström, for example. I mean, there's so much. I don't know. It's so many languages as well. Italo Calvino is another Italian writer whose writings I love. I mean, there's so much. There's so much. I mean, it's hard to try to condense it into. Yeah, I mean, Gabriel Garcia Marquez, another who I absolutely loves. It's so much. There's so much. But yeah, that's a little. Those are a couple that we both enjoy. Um, Chaz asks, there's been some discussion around how Salah ranks amongst the Premier League all-time players. Those who say he's number one point his amazing GA stats, whereas those against say he's not technically good enough and doesn't pass the eye test. I can see both sides. My question is, how do you see it? And also, what changes to Salah's game have you noticed from when he was in Serie A? I remember him being much more aesthetically pleasing to watch when he played for Roma and Fiorentina. Also, Salah a freak anomaly as an example of a player who's been successful in transition from Italy to England? Thanks, Chaz. What do you make of this? I've noticed this a lot. I find these discussions
I
a
think
bit
there's no
weird.
doubt about it. He's one of the greatest players in Premier League history.
Yeah, but
There's
he's not
no
the
doubt.
best, is he?
What, the best?
Yeah,
Well,
that's the
that's a
debate.
different debate. That's a different debate. Is he
Yeah,
one of the best players in the
for
history of the
sure.
Premier League? No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Just
I mean, Cristiano Ronaldo has to be one. Like, I mean,
look at the
you know,
number of goals and assists that he's had. I would say he's probably surpassed Cristiano Ronaldo. I would say. He's
I
played.
don't know.
If you look at the length of time that Ronaldo was there compared to Salah, who had more years at the top, playing at the very top, definitely Salah than Ronaldo. Ronaldo went there kind of like 2003, 2004. It took until
Mm,
about 2007 before he reached a world class level,
mm.
and then he left in 2009. So really, he was at
That's
his
true.
peak for about 2 to 3 years in the Premier League, where he was a
But
world.
he was unbelievable those 2-3 years. Like,
I know, but so is Salah. I mean, Salah this season is probably playing as well as he ever has. It's
yeah.
unbelievable.
But it's like it's the technically thing, which I understand. I think Cristiano at his peak was technically far superior than Salah. I even think Eric Cantona technically was superior
But Cantona
to
played in
Salah.
a pub league. Cantona's been so overrated.
Nah, 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 nah.
He played in Eric Cantona, when he was at Manchester United, did fuck all in Europe at all. Have a look at him when he
I know, but
did nothing in Europe, and he played in a dreadful quality Premier League. Amazing player to watch. Did nothing for France during the time that he was.
Well, he argued with everyone. They didn't let him play.
He did. He did until the night they failed to qualify for the '94 World Cup. Then after that.
He fell out with everyone.
He's been massively overrated by Prem faces. Cantona.
I think he was wonderful. I mean,
he's a wonderful player to watch, but he was playing in it literally.
Yeah,
the Premier League,
the quality of the Premier League. The quality of the Premier League in
the first half of the '90s was pub league standard.
It was awful. But I mean, you could say something similar about Dennis Bergkamp then as well, because when he dominated in the Premier League was crap. He was around the same time.
Bergkamp joined just as the foreign invasion was starting, and then he went on to be brilliant when the Premier League started to become good. He was still great.
But he was a magical player.
Yeah.
And Ryan Giggs has to be up there as well. I thought he was.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say Salah's the greatest ever, but I would say he's definitely one of the greatest for sure.
Yeah. No, Ryan
Giggs,
of course,
he's moved on to another level at Liverpool. He played under Klopp, who had the best nutrition, and 60%. I'll be careful what I say. Yeah, let me stop there.
Yeah, be quiet. Also, this is a freak anomaly. I think it's true. Players who've done well in both England and Italy. I mean, Cristiano Ronaldo is one who's done well in both countries, in both leagues. But other than that, great players. Zola is another one who's done great. But other than that, there's really not that many, is there? Like who have been fantastic in one league, and then Shevchenko was atrocious when he went to Chelsea.
Not a massive amount in recent years. No,
but even before, Ian Rush was a flop in Juve.
Yeah, Graham Souness was great in both leagues. Trevor Francis was really
David
good.
Platt did all right.
David Platt did all right. Yeah, but not a massive amount. Patrice Evra did excellent in both leagues.
For one season at Milan, no?
What?
Patrick Vieira.
Patrice Evra.
Oh, Evra. I thought you said Vieira. Yeah, okay. Yeah, Evra was all right. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. No, there's an anomaly, but I mean,
Tevez did great.
Yeah, that's true. Tevez was fantastic at Juve. It's unbelievable. Right. Next question. Alexander Rico says, as I'm watching Genoa beat Empoli, I was thinking how glad I am that Genoa is staying up again. Serie A is best when Italy's best club and the club closest to the gaining its first star is there. That has me wondering, what's your ideal Serie A? From listening over the years, I know both of you would like an 18 team. So if we're up to you, which 18 teams would you choose for Serie A at its best? This assumes each team is Serie A quality, so only the club itself that counts, not the quality of the current squad. I love this question. I love this question.
So what? We have to pick 18 teams from now?
The best... No. The best Serie A, as we would decide it, like in terms of, historically, and like what would we... If we could decide which 18 teams would be in the Serie A, ignore the quality of their squad currently. Do you know what I mean? So
we have to pick the best 18 teams ever?
No. The 18 teams that we want to be in the Serie A based on their history, based on fan base. You know what I mean? Yeah. And discard the quality. So I would go Atalanta, Inter, Napoli, Lazio, Fiorentina, Juve, Bologna, Milan, Roma, Torino, Udinese, Genoa, Sampdoria, Parma, Cagliari, Catania, Palermo. I think that's 18.
You got 18.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm biased. I have to chuck in Foggia and Avellino for my family. I'd have to have those two in there. But I think you've got most of them there. Did you say Palermo?
Yeah, Palermo and Catania for sure.
Yeah.
I need my Sicilian derbies.
Did you say Bari?
No, but that's the thing though. It's only 18. If it was 20, I'd throw in Lecce and Bari. Because I need that derby as well.
Yeah.
You've
got Genoa and Samp in there, yeah?
Of course. Mm-hmm. The most interesting. It's a fantastic derby. The Derby della Lanterna. I love that derby. Yeah, I'd go with those. Lecce, Bari.
You got Juve in there, yeah?
Yeah, I got all of them. Calm down. Breathe.
Yeah, no, I'll go with that. Just Foggia and Avellino.
Yeah. If it's 18, but if it's 20, I'd have Lecce and Bari as well, because you need to have them there. And I'd make it a closed league so that no one can get relegated.
Oh God, he's gone full European Super League.
Yes, I want my Italian Super League. I just want them. But it's like, you also have these other clubs as well. There's so many cool stories. Like you have Udinese, you have Ascoli, you have Provercelli. You have so many other stories to tell as well. I mean, there's so many. Like it's difficult to just do that. But so yeah, I'd like to return to the I think it was pre-fascist era, before the Serie A, when they had a northern Serie A and a southern Serie A.
Yeah.
And seriously, I'd like to have that, like 15 northern, 15 southern, and then the top 8 from then play out to win the set. Like that's what I would do.
Nema, president of the Northern League.
No, I mean, you'd have 15 teams from north, and north I define as everything from north of Rome, and south is Mezzogiorno. So 15 teams from each of them, and then they play out home and away. That's 30 games each, and then the top 8 in each one, they play each other. Does that make sense? Like a home and away? So the number 1 in the Northern League plays the 8th in the Southern League, and vice versa. And then you seed them, and then you have a giant final, one-off final in Rome. How awesome wouldn't that be?
That would be good.
What? You don't like that? It's better than your bloody penalties.
No, go for it.
Next, your MLS penalties that are the bane of my existence gives me a knot in my stomach every time you say it. You know why? Because I don't know why. Every time you say that, I think of Diana Ross in the 1994 opening ceremony.
But she still scored, though.
No, she missed the goal. And the goal breaks.
They made out that she scored.
Yes, I know. It's just, it's so bad. It's just so cringy. Right, next question. Johnny Manja says, would like to know if you think Roma's improved form could lead to a top 6 finish or a deep run in Europa League. Thank you again for the great content this year. That's a good question. I don't think top 6 is possible, because I think just between the current top 6, I think they are too good. It's not impossible, but I think it's highly unlikely. As for the Europa League, yeah, go for it. I hope they go as far as possible. I mean, Roma have shown these last 4 or 5 years that they do have European pedigree. So absolutely. And I'm hoping for a Roma Lazio Europa League final.
Yeah, I said in the Monday pod that I've seen enough from Roma to suggest that I think they can be quite a threat in the Europa League. Obviously, there's a lot of tough teams, Premier League teams and teams elsewhere that could be dangerous. But I think they, because they've also got the experience. They've had so many great runs in Europe that their squad is experienced, can handle these occasions as well. With Ranieri, with something to play for, I think they can. Yeah, I think that they're building up nicely. I think they can be. They need to make sure they get through first, because they're not through yet. But I think they could be a decent threat. As for top 6, they're 12 points off the top 6. It's going to be very difficult. But the fact that everybody else is dropping points so much around there, if they could get on a run, I wouldn't rule it out either.
No, I wouldn't rule it out. I just think it's very highly, highly unlikely. As for the Europa League, like I said, I want the Derby della Capitale final. How awesome wouldn't that be? All Roman final in the Europa League. Oh my God.
That would be amazing.
Oh my God. Right. And you know what? I'd probably move it to Wembley just for shits and giggles.
They'll probably do that anyway, to be honest.
Yeah. Next question. Jonas says, can we now say that the experiment of the American owners' saviors in the league, i.e. the fraudkins, Jesus, has definitely failed? Seeing as how club football is effed either way, how about a couple of Arab oil peddlers for owners in the league? At least our beautiful league can go down in flames, the shitter, alongside the rest of the sport. But with Arab oil money, maybe with a few fun transfer windows and a run or two in the Champions League along the way. I love how Jonas, as a Roma fan, is so... he's reached the point now where he's like, if it's going to go to hell, let's go to hell and have fun while we're going to hell. Do you know what I mean?
Knowing our luck, we'll get snake oil salesmen as our owners from the Middle East.
Oh, my days. No, but look, it's, again, I think that in terms of the business side of things, I think American owners and North American owners have been really good. The problem is the sporting side, which they don't seem to understand. They know nothing about. They don't understand it. They just don't
Yeah.
understand it.
I
And
mean, there
that's
has
been the
been still
problem.
been some good ones. I mean, I think the ones that have been good have generally been the ones that have left the sporting sides to the
To
Europeans
people
or
who
the
knows what they're
Italians to know what
doing.
they're doing, like Pagliuca at Atalanta.
Yeah.
He's gone in there and he's thought, well,
Why should I
why should I
fiddle with
touch
something?
something that's clearly working?
Same thing
And
with Oak Tree. With the smartest thing they did was make Marotta club president.
yeah,
Like it was just so intelligent. Just basically, you run this because you know what you're doing.
yeah,
We'll handle the other side.
mm,
I mean, that's the way it should be. It shouldn't be any prestige. It should be right man at the right place. Do you know what I mean?
no.
Right woman, right man at the right place.
But that's
Uh,
wisdom as well, and
mm,
that's the way that you should do things in any business is
exactly. And in life, isn't it? Put your ego
what you can
aside.
do, what you can't do, and putting somebody that's
Yeah.
or just appointing the right people
Yeah.
is half the job. It's not about you having to be able to do everything. And
Amen.
yeah,
Amen. In life and in everything. I agree. Next question. Stephen Barr says, "Hi, gentlemen, and happy holidays to you and your families. Wanted to ask you guys about the transfer rumours of 3 young Italian players and your thoughts, feelings about it. It's rumoured that Fazzini is going to Lazio, Casadei to Feyenoord or Monza, and Pafundi to Monza, all rumours from Nicolo Schira. Do you think a team like Monza will be a good place for them to play where they could be battling relegation, assuming Monza will play them regularly and not go for journeymen to help avoid being sent down to Serie B? Or would they be better off at a mid-table side like Empoli, Genoa, Torino, or Milan, where the team is more secure to stay up but might have limited minutes?"
mm,
Well, happy holidays to you too. I love the Fazzini to Lazio rumor. I think it's a good rumor, but I'm also a little bit upset because that means he leaves Empoli, no?
yeah. He didn't play the last game, and I was thinking to myself that could be a sign that he's definitely leaving. The fact that he didn't play or he didn't start. Um, but Yeah, I mean, I think they need a centre midfielder. They need some depth in centre mid. So don't think that's the worst. That's the worst decision. As for Cassidy, he clearly has to leave Chelsea. And as for Pafundi, yeah,
He's failed in Switzerland.
no, yeah, he has changed position to a more deeper line or deeper centre midfield role.
Mm.
And I think the question's a good one. It is a very difficult one. If he goes to Monza, who are bottom of the league, can they afford to play more youngsters who they've already been playing quite a lot of youngsters this season and they haven't been getting the results? Difficult, isn't it? Whereas
Mm.
Empoli, Genoa, Torino, yeah,
I'd love to see Pafundi at Empoli. Casadei, I think, to needs to leave, like you said, but Lazio is an interesting one because I think I wonder if it's a step too big, but at the same time, I don't know. It's he does numbers, doesn't he? I mean, when he plays, and when he plays at youth level and under 23 level and stuff. So it would be interesting to see what someone like Baroni could do with him. But Pafundi, I'd love to go to Empoli,
mm.
and Fazzini to Lazio. I think is if he does that, that's such a shrewd signing by Lazio, and I think I hope he does well.
Yeah, I
For sure.
probably agree. I do
Mm.
worry with Pafundi because he just comes off as that kind of flimsy, like not the biggest physically, and I just know the way that Italian managers think
Yeah.
especially when they're fighting against relegation, they just don't trust these kind of players.
No,
It's
they
easier
don't.
to trust a young player like Casadei or Fazzini because they're physically strong guys and they run and they offer that kind of side of things. Whereas uh, with Pafundi, he's an incredible technical talent, but he's small, he's quite weak, and they just don't. He's a bit of a luxury kind of player, and they just don't trust those kind of players,
No.
which is why I'm worried about him wherever he
Yeah.
goes.
Agreed. Good shout. Next question. Hamza Mir says, question for the Q&A now. Looking at it, do you guys think Juve made a mistake selling Dean Huijsen? Because he has been one of the best centre-backs in Europe this season. And second questions, do you think Atalanta should sign a new midfield partner for Edison? I like Martin de Roon, but against big teams, he struggles to cover the ground like Koopmeiners did last season, and he struggled 1v1 as well against high-level players. I remember last season in the big games, Gasperini used to play Koopmeiners and Edison because they were more athletic and can cover cover the ground more. Also, when both Ederson and Koopmeiners started last season, Atalanta conceded less goals. They were one of the best teams defensively in the Europa League last season. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
The Dean Huijsen one, that's an interesting question, isn't it? Because he was very mistake-prone in the Serie A, but he has done really well this season, hasn't he?
He's done all right.
I think he's done well.
He's done okay. He hasn't even played. He hasn't been a regular this season. He's better on the ball, I think, than he is defensively. Juventus, did they make a mistake?
It's a bit too soon to say that.
Well, they're lacking numbers, aren't they? So they made a mistake in that they didn't have enough numbers. But then obviously they lost their best player to an ACL, their best defender and their best player. That's going to affect any team. So yeah, but they've left themselves short on numbers at centre back or in defence. That's where they made the mistake. Whether it was the mistake was selling Huijsen in particular, maybe not. But the mistake was leaving themselves too short. But at the same time, you lose your best defender and then you lose another player, 2 players to ACL in defence, then it's difficult sometimes to plan for that. But
absolutely,
as for Atalanta, yeah, I've been saying since the start of the season that this is where Atalanta are short. They don't have another centre midfielder that can help Ederson, and I agree 100% with Hamza on his breakdown of Darun. Every single word that he said. He's getting older. He can't cover the ground, and he has been getting murdered on one-on-ones this season. It's happening in a lot of games, including when he's dropped back into defence. So yeah, I think that is Atalanta's weakness. They're short in centre midfield, and they should try and sign someone. Also to give Ederson some rest and to give him some help as well. And that's their weak point, weak link for me, Atalanta. So yeah, I would.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good shout. I still think defensively, like central defenders, is I'd like to improve that department of them as well. But I mean, at the end of the day, how much can we demand of Atalanta? Really, I mean, they're already doing fantastic things. So I agree with that. Last question comes from Kunal Soni. He says, for next Italy games against Germany, who would you pick as the forwards? Should Spalletti build around Atalanta forwards Retegui, Zanioli and drop Chiesa? And should Gatti start as the right centre-back instead of Di Lorenzo? Thanks. Well, Chiesa is not going to even be in the squad because he doesn't deserve to be in the squad. So,
well, yeah, you can't pick Chiesa. He's played about
playing with kids on he's on Cop Kids TV. That's what he's doing.
Yeah,
he's a children's TV
he's
host
not
now.
playing with the Cop Kids, but he played 1 game or 2 games because he's come back from injury. You're exaggerating now, but yeah,
I'm being facetious. Of course, he's not.
But he might as well be playing with the Cop Kids because he's not getting any minutes for the first team. So he might as well be playing.
Might as well just take over and be a presenter for Cop Kids TV. I swear to God, might as well. Might have a better career.
Stop bullying him.
I'm not bullying him. I'm annoyed. You know how much I rated him, and you know how much I thought he was going to be a superstar, and it's like it's annoyed me.
Yeah, no, this is what happens. But yeah, I mean, Zaniolo's doing okay at the moment, so I probably would call him up. He's as a kind of as a impact player. I think I would call him. I would call Retegui. Who else we got there?
Raspadori, Retegui.
Moise Kean has to go.
Moise Kean has to
go, yeah. I think you go Retegui and Kean have to be your number 9s.
Yeah.
And then, assuming you stick with the same formation. And then you have Zaniolo and
Raspadori. I go with Raspadori. I think Raspadori is I mean, there is a problem. I mean, Retegui's the only one, and now he's had a bit of a dip in form, and Zaniolo has done all right. But I think you have to give some continuity. But Moise Kean, definitely, because, I mean, he keeps scoring, and he keeps scoring important goals.
Yeah.
So you have to, you have to call him.
Yeah.
It's...
I mean, I think those 3, definitely. I think.
Yeah.
But then, like you said, you need another support striker, and there isn't many options. So maybe you do go Raspadori, because I can't really think of any other alternatives, to be honest, that can play.
I mean, Lorenzo Luca is good, but I still feel like there's a little last step.
Plus, he's a number 9, and then 2 number 9s. We've got 2 number 9s already.
Yeah.
So we need a number 10 or a support striker. And there isn't really any other options other than Raspadori. I can't think of anyone else.
No,
I mean, Chiesa, but he's not playing, and I'm still not sure about the position, which is something that Spalletti has alluded to as well. And then the others are like wingers, like Zaccagni or Solini, or which they don't fit the formation. So yeah,
No, I agree.
I think it has to be Raspadori. Yeah,
I think so as well. We're in agreement. And then what about Gatti as a right centre back instead of Di Lorenzo? I don't know, man.
I don't think his attributes suit it. I think you get the kind of Matthias de Ligt, Milan Skriniar syndrome problem of not being that great laterally with their movement, covering that space between the side centre back and the wing back. I feel like Gatti, if he is to play, it'd be in a 3-back-3. It would be as the centre.
Yeah. No, I agree.
I mean, I could be wrong. I mean, he's proven us wrong many times, Gatti, hasn't he? He kind of keeps proving people wrong. So I hope I'm wrong, because we need right-sided centre backs. But looking at his attributes, I think he might, he might not have the qualities for that role.
I think he should be in the squad, just like you, but I'm with you on the rest as well. I'd rather have Gianluca Mancini there as a right.
I think he's better in a back four, Gatti, as well,
Yeah,
where you can be a unit, you can hold the line, and you can play as a 4.
Agreed. And
you have less ground to cover.
Yeah, agreed, 100%. Right, that's all the questions you guys have sent in the first Q&A of 2025. So please do remember to send in your questions via Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, email, but preferably via DM on Patreon. We'll be back on Monday for a full review of the Serie A action, and as well might do a post-match reaction as well on the Supercoppa games. Inter play Atalanta tonight, Juve play tomorrow, and then there's a final in between there as well. But so lots of content coming on. Got lots of cool things planned this year. So thank you again for all your support. Hope you've all had a wonderful Christmas holiday or holidays if you celebrate, and New Year's. We'll be back next week. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other. Ciao, ciao.